Ifedima grew up wearing her sister's old clothes and shoes, as her mother never bothered to buy her new clothes like her sister. She would always look in admiration as her sister dressed up in beautiful clothes, reminiscing on the day that she would finally wear the beautiful dress, even in its old and faded state. Once upon a time, there lived a woman named Udoka who had two daughters. Their names were Obiangeli and Ifedima, and Udoka loved her first daughter Obiangeli so much and never spared any opportunity to show it. When Obiangeli was born, Udoka named her after her own mother, who she loved with all of her heart. Obiangeli was so special to her mother Udoka, who showered her with so much love and affection. To Udoka, her daughter Obiangeli was perfect and incapable of doing no wrong. She bought her the best of everything, including clothes, and the other girls in the village always admired Obiangeli because of how beautiful she always looked. This was, however, not the case for Ifedima, who was Udoka's second daughter. All Udoka showered on Ifedima was pure hatred and disdain. When Ifedima was born, Udoka hardly looked at her or paid any attention to her cries. She named her without any thought, ensuring that no one celebrated her birth. Ifedima grew up wearing her sister's old clothes and shoes, as her mother never bothered to buy her new clothes like her sister. She would always look in admiration as her sister dressed up in beautiful clothes, reminiscing on the day that she would finally wear the beautiful dress, even in its old and faded state. Ifedima was like a slave in her own mother's house, and people struggled to believe that she was Udoka's legitimate daughter. Ifedima would always wake up early in the morning, before anyone else, to take care of her daily chores, as her mother Udoka warned her that all the chores had to be done before she woke up in the morning. Whilst her sister Obiangeli still laid asleep in her bed, Ifedima slaved away in the early hours of the morning, sweeping the compound, fetching water from the stream, and even preparing breakfast. Udoka would often yell at Ifedima for the slightest mistake that she made, no matter how small, and would praise Obiangeli for simply being present. Ifedima worked like a slave, whilst her elder sister Obiangeli barely lifted a feather, as Udoka hated to see her stressed. One night, after a very long and stressful day, Ifedima dozed off as she was preparing dinner. She had not had a decent sleep in weeks, and her body easily gave in to the sleep. After a few minutes, Ifedima woke up and realized that the food she was preparing had burnt. The whole kitchen was now filled with smoke, as her mother Udoka rushed in to investigate the source of the smoke. She met Ifedima standing next to the pot of burnt food. Her eyes, as red as a scarlet, indicated that she had just woken up from sleep. Unable to control her anger, Udoka broke a clay pot on Ifedima's head as she stormed out in anger. Ifedima screamed out loud, holding her head in extreme pain. She could not understand why her mother hated her this much and even began to doubt that Udoka was her biological mother. After a few minutes, Udoka ordered Ifedima to stand next to her bed all night as punishment for burning her food. Ifedima stood next to her mother's bed as she watched her sleep. In the middle of the night, Ifedima heard a sound in their house and tried to wake her mother, who slapped her for disturbing her sleep. Just as she was about going back to sleep, a gang of armed thieves walked into their house requesting for some money. Udoka had just used up all the money she had to restock her market stall and was left with nothing. The armed men seemed so agitated as they pressed for Udoka to give them the money that she had in the house, but Udoka revealed to them that she had no money. The thieves then revealed to her that they were not going to leave her house empty-handed, and that if Udoka failed to provide them with something valuable, they would kill her daughters and herself. Udoka, on hearing this, told the thieves to have their way with her daughter Ifedima, as she had no need of her, and the thieves all looked at her in shock. They could not believe that a mother would make such an offer to them with her own daughter. Filled with anger, the thief shot Udoka on her legs, saying that she deserved worse punishment for being a wicked mother. She screamed out in pain as her legs numbed in that instant moment. The thieves left their house without taking anything, and Ifedima, seeing the pain that her mother was passing through, rushed her to the village hospital, where the village doctor revealed that her mother would not be able to use her legs again. Ifedima and her sister Obiangeli looked at each other in shock. They could not believe that their mother would be incapacitated all her life. Obiangeli, with a frown on her face, then asked who would look after their mother, as she could not pause her life at this stage when she was yet to find a husband to take care of her crippled mother. Udoka was so shocked to hear this from her beloved daughter Obiangeli. She had always believed that Obiangeli would be by her side no matter the circumstances. The realization that her favored daughter was unwilling to care for her was a bitter pill to swallow. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Ifedima became the sole caregiver of her mother. Despite the years of mistreatment, Ifedima's kind heart could not let her abandon her own mother. She decided to take on the responsibility of caring for Udoka, and as the weeks went by, Ifedima took care of her mother with love. She bathed her, fed her, and even ensured that Udoka had everything she needed. Her sister Obiangeli barely lifted a finger because she was too occupied with living her life to care for her own mother. Ifedima never left her mother's side, despite the fact that Udoka poured her frustration on her. One morning, Obiangeli informed her mother Udoka that she was leaving the village in search of a better life. She could no longer bear her mother's incessant demands and believed that leaving the village was the best decision for her. Udoka pleaded with her daughter to stay, but Obiangeli's mind was already made up as she left the village without turning back. This affected Udoka greatly, as she could not believe that the daughter, who she so despised, was the one willing to remain by her side in her time of need. If anything, Udoka expected that Ifedima would leave her at a time like this because of how terribly she had treated her in the past, but this was not the case, as the daughter, who she so loved and could swear would be by her side, was the one that left. Udoka's heart was so heavy as she watched her daughter Ifedima care for her and attend to her every need. What made it worse was that Ifedima always had a smile on her face when she was caring for her mother, and Udoka could not help but ask Ifedima why she decided to stay, despite the fact that she had a million reasons to leave. And Ifedima looked her mother in the eyes and said that regardless of how badly Udoka had treated her in the past, she never stopped loving her as a mother. All that she yearned for was for her love to be reciprocated. These words hit Udoka like a lightning bolt as she burst out in tears and began to plead for Ifedima's forgiveness. I have wronged you in ways that words cannot express, yet you are here, taking care of me with a heart full of love. I am so sorry, my daughter. Ifedima looked into her mother's eyes and said, I have forgiven you, mother. No action you will take would rid the love I have for you. However, mother, I would like to know why you hated me so much, she asked, and Udoka began to weep as she narrated the whole story to her. When you were born, I was overwhelmed with grief and anger. Your father, whom I love dearly, passed away shortly before your birth. I blamed you for his death because your pregnancy made me so temperamental. I would yell and scream at him at any given opportunity. On the day that he died, I was yelling at him when he had a heart attack and slumped to the floor. I never got to forgive myself for killing my husband, and decided to blame you for it. All these years, I let my grief turn into hatred towards you, and that was so unfair of me, as I sincerely apologize for all that I put you through. Ifedima forgave her mother, as both of them agreed to mend their relationship. This was the beginning of healing for Udoka and her daughter Ifedima, who began to experience the true meaning of a mother's love. Udoka did everything within her power to make up for the years that she deprived Ifedima of her motherly love, and as time went on, the bond between Ifedima and Udoka began to grow stronger. Udoka's health slowly improved, although she was still unable to walk. One day, a very rich man who lived in the big city visited his old mother in the village. His name was Chibuzo, and he was seeking a kind-hearted and strong woman to be his wife. His old mother, without thinking twice, told him about Ifedima, who was not only kind-hearted but virtuous and strong. Chibuzo was so delighted to hear this and requested to meet with her. His mother then directed him to Udoka's home, where he met Ifedima, who was shocked to see a suitor in her home. When Chibuzo met Ifedima, he was immediately struck by her beauty and grace. However, it was her kind heart and gentle spirit that truly captivated him. He asked for her hand in marriage, and Ifedima, after much deliberation and consultation with her mother, agreed. Their wedding was a grand celebration, and Ifedima moved to the big city with her husband Chibuzo, where she found happiness and peace. She continued to care for her mother, who she brought to live with them in their new home. Meanwhile, her sister Obiangeli, despite her beauty and charm, struggled to find a husband. Her selfish and entitled attitude alienated her from potential suitors who could not cope with her terrible character. So, she decided to return back to their village and was told that her mother and sister no longer lived in the village, as a rich man married her sister and took them both to the big city. Obiangeli could not believe her ears, as she could not believe that her sister was now married to a rich man. She regretted ever abandoning her family when they needed her the most and went in search of them to plead for forgiveness. When she arrived at her sister's home, she was shocked at how well her sister received her into her home. Obiangeli pleaded for her sister's forgiveness, as she apologized for not being a good sister for all these years. She also apologized for leaving them the way that she did and pleaded for Ifedima to forgive her. Ifedima, with her ever-loving heart, embraced her sister Obiangeli, reassuring her of her forgiveness. Obiangeli then went on to apologize to her mother, who seemed so delighted to see her. Udoka forgave her daughter as well, as they all reunited as a family. Obiangeli proved her sincerity by helping Ifedima care for their mother, as the bond between them strengthened. She later met a kind and understanding man in the city who picked an interest in her and decided to marry her. That was how Obiangeli got married to a man in the city and decided to take on the responsibility of looking after her mother, who moved in with her after her wedding. The lesson to be learned from this story is that love can heal even the deepest wounds and bring about forgiveness. Do not project your grief and anger onto innocent parties, as doing so can lead to lasting harm. Never overlook the importance of character, because your beauty may take you there, but character will bring you back. So, always work on your character to ensure that you are always the best version of yourself. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.